It is 5:41 p.m. and I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item on our agenda, we do have quorum. There's 4 of us in the room and 1 of us online. We do have a new member, so I'd like to acknowledge that David Hawley is here. David is appointed by the city of Lawrence and he replaces Chuck Magrum. And that means we have, we kind of have Rebecca Gaston is still kind of technically a member of the board because until her successor is appointed, she is like by the bylaws, she's still kind of part of our board. And she doesn't expect to come to our meetings though, unless I like desperately need her. So now I would say we're at 8. With that caveat, Rebecca is kind of a one of those 8, and we're gonna need to replace her, obviously, but that means our quorum is still 5 for now. And just another clarification about our quorum, just as I said at the last meeting, it does require that we have a representative from the city and the county and the independent directors. So if this is probably the challenging part is if one of the county employee or county appointees is not here, then we don't technically have quorum. So the appointees from the county are John and Christina. So those 2, now Christina's here, so technically we have quorum here, according to the bylaws. Without Christina, even if we had 5 of us, we wouldn't actually constitute a quorum. So I was just going over the quorum because I tried to explain this last month, but when I was looking at the bylaws, there is a stipulation that it's representation from city, county, and the independent directors has to be assured. So
the county's here.
yeah, the county's here. All right. So,
Thank you.
but it also means like there's 2 of you. If either you or John can't make it, then we technically aren't able to have quorum. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Shane. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Christina. Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda. If there's no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is regular business. We'll start with the executive director report.
Hello, everybody. I got a lot of stuff to kind of go over today. I want to start with talk about some of our numbers. For the month of October, we had 12 guests from our continuous stay programs. That would be the village and the 90-day program. They exited to positive destinations. 6 people moved into rental property. 4 moved in with friends. 1 moved into a long-term care facility and 1 moved into sober living. 92 of our 177 night-by-night guests stayed for 15 or more days, which is a 14% increase than September. September's month, it was a 19% increase over the month prior. So we have people come in and staying longer, utilizing our services. And we expect to see that with the weather change. It could be better. We have had 67 new program enrollments during the month of October, including 53 in night by night alone. So that's 2 people that weren't registered with us prior, which is good. It's good that we have people have places where people go. It's not good for saying how many people are becoming homeless now or recently homeless. I don't have the numbers on how long they have been homeless with me, but they're in the stats somewhere. So that's like 12 new night or night guests per week coming in. This was our first full month that Power 24 was open, and we averaged 18 guests per night for the month. I think last night we had 20. We had about 20 last night. So it won't be long before we have to double up in the cabins. So we expect that to come when the weather gets colder. With our combined numbers, night by night numbers, it means we're taking in an average of 95 guests each night. That's our night by night. Update on Gale. I know everybody was interested in invoices. Invoices are going out or have went out. you shall be expecting an invoice coming to your doorstep soon. But then there will be a way to pay either electronically or to mail in the card back, so. This means we've invoiced also the silent auction items have been invoiced for. I just signed a lot of thank you cards today, so everybody at tables can get a thank you card. And we appreciate it. We just got our pictures today, I think, and so we're going through those. We're developing a post on the website to have the pictures show and a social media post, and it's great. Just seeing those pictures reminded me of that, what that night was like. That night was kind of awesome night. Awesome. So it's kind of, they'll be posted shortly.
Can I say something real quick before?
Of course.
About the gala and about the silent auction. So at 6 Mile Chop House, they've had an extension of the Lawrence Community Shelter silent auction items. And so it's like continuing to gather interest and people are still
Community
bidding
auction
on
items.
that. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, like, even that night didn't stop for the silent
That's
auction
all we
items.
planned for Taylor Swift stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to Kim about that. She was
Yeah.
able to get some nice.
$250, so.
Talk about price, but one of the favorites.
Much all I realized.
I want to talk about the advisory board. I don't know if I guess I can recommend, I have 6 applicants that I want to recommend, if we want to do that today. Or do we want to just?
There's a section on the agenda for the advisory.
Okay, I'll just wait. I have all that with me now. Let's talk about. The interior update, want to talk about that now, Charlie?
That's also on the agenda.
What's, okay. Well, I'll put that over in too. That's important.
I mean, we can talk about it if you'd like, or we'll take a vote on that later in the agenda.
Okay, are we gonna have a discussion about that later,
Yeah.
or, okay, we'll talk about it later. So those are the highlights of the things I had, I talked to Paycheck today, I signed a lot of contracts with them to get started. One of the things that concerns me is waiting on our, health insurance quotes. We haven't gotten those yet. We keep getting ancillary, bids for long-term disability and those type of things, we're getting that. And we haven't gotten the health quotes yet. One of the things that I know is when I'm expecting the quotes to be from United Healthcare. We already got a quote from them where we were under accident. I'm hoping that those quotes are not far off and that would be acceptable. If they're not that much different, if they are different. And it's insurance that won't be beneficial or preferable to our staff, we might have to look at maybe coming under Paycheck's CEO to get a better rate. I know there's a lot of people that will not be able to stay if the healthcare is not affordable for a lot of people. I know we're getting quotes, some of the quotes we've seen, and just other insurance. I mean, is it Benny or Uma?
Yeah,
It's
Goes
different.
round, nobody takes it.
If Many Solutions, which is a minimum value plan package, that was the only thing that we got, like a solid health insurance quote that was.
Doesn't cover it.
It's like a catastrophe
Yeah.
coverage, that is also, I guess applicable to the Affordable Care Act stipulations for minimum coverage, so. But yeah, it's definitely like a last resort type of insurance coverage.
So, we were just thinking about that today when we talked about that. Before we say yes, if we get those quotes in around, I'm gonna ask for what it would look like if we went the other route to get better, if we can get better prices. I know eventually we'll have to say we have to pick something, but I wanted to have due diligence to make sure that we're doing what we can to get the prices down. We have one of the reasons why it's being said that we're hard to quote is that our people use our insurance. We have a high rate of people using insurance and a lot of people taking medication, a lot of people are using our insurance and it's at a high rate, so that's why Blue Cross Blue Shield wouldn't quote us. So that's a big concern, so. And it's been over, I know we had the meeting, executive, and they said it'd be up to 7 to 10 days. It's been over 10 days, so. But she's checking twice a day and not getting it back, so. I forget something, that's what I have on all the other stuff.
For the gateway, can you give us kind of a update on how much money was committed that night?
We had committed a total of with table hosts and the funding need and the silent auctions, it was about 97,000 and some change. And when we deducted our expenses that we know of are fine, well, I don't know, it's not the final, but what we've known at the time, our expenses, it came out to be about 83,000 something, so that was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. So one of the things we're planning to do, I talked to Megan about this today, is we're gonna start meeting in about July. I'm gonna go ahead and reserve the DoubleTree Inn just to have it on, just to have that reserved for next year. But we're gonna also look at other venues and things like that. So we're gonna look to enhance what we've done and expound on it and kind of work out some of the things that we know we can do better. But overall, I think it was a success for 3 months. Us not having done that before, us having a limited staff, I think it was very successful. Yeah, very successful.
Our first year too, it's just gonna get better.
Yeah, very successful. So, and we have enough time to put in place some things that we can be supported. We can support each other a little differently than we did this time. So.
Well, I think 83,000 is greater than what we were, when we set our goals, as I recall, it was discussed like, ideally we would get 15 tables, but at least 10. And it sounds like we got kind of right in the middle.
Yeah, 14.
14, so I thought it was 12, okay, so 14, so we almost hit the, kind of the reach goal. And then my recollection is we were throwing out 70,000 as kind of like that would be a stellar accomplishment, and so 83,000 is, even better.
That's great.
So. Yeah, only other question I had is you mentioned a little bit about the paychecks, and I thought it could be helpful. The exec committee had a conversation about this, and maybe you can share with us, for the whole board, what the transition is that you're thinking through.
So we're with Accent now. We've put in a notice to them that we plan to no longer need their services for next year. And so they plan to cover payroll up until the 20th of this month, well, next month, excuse me. And paychecks will come in and start on the 21st. That'll be the beginning of the pay period, which the first paycheck will be the 3rd or 4th of January. So they start the new year with the W-2s and all the tax and stuff. And so we have one document or tax document from just one agency. It'll be from Accent for 2025. We were firming up things today about how that's going to transition, and so I think that we have all the information we need, and I'll sign some additional documents to make that happen. So that's the start, the end of Accent and the beginning of paychecks.
One of the things, just to clarify, like this contract, or not contract, but the service agreement with paychecks is actually a paycheck to paycheck commitment.
Right.
So there's not it doesn't rise to the level of the board needs to, sorry, I didn't see Mercedes was trying to join. It doesn't hit that threshold where the board needs to approve it. It's not above 30,000 because it's not James isn't obligating us past every payroll, essentially.
No.
So it's within that $20,000 limit that he has to approve. any agreements, so.
Yeah, the total we plan to spend with paychecks is about 37,000 for this year. And then next year to be 36, I think that difference was the initial sign-on fee or something like that. But they quoted us at a 50% discount. So,
But I guess what I'm trying to clarify is even though that's an annual estimated cost.
yeah,
It's like our financial policies are, if there's a contract above 30,000 and the board needs to approve, and we clarified with them that there's no commitment beyond each individual payroll transaction, so I think that's something for us to think about if we want to have any role in that type of commitment, because I think we're all assuming that it would be an ongoing thing. But technically, it doesn't hit that requirement in our financial policies. So that was part of what the exec committee was trying to decide is, do we have to bring it to the whole board for a vote on this change, or could James go ahead and make the change?
and so pay period cost of about 13,150 for 65 employees. With the pay per employee cost of about 1268 after the discount. So that's what the number breaks down for each pay period, so it's not a contract of over 2,000.
You said 13,000
Yeah, that's what they said,
per paycheck,
per pay period,
pay period, doesn't add up.
that's
13.
the cost of. That's what they said there. For the employees, for 65 employees, that's right out of the notes.
How many pay periods are there?
That's usually what,
Every 2 weeks, right? So 26 times 13,000 is a lot more than they said.
doesn't matter, but that's what they quoted, so.
Say it all again. What's the per pay period cost?
The service agreement terms, Jason explained that unlike traditional contracts, Paychex offers flexible month-to-month service agreements based on a per billing, period billing, no long-term commitments. They confirmed that since there's no annual contract, I'd be able to approve the agreement. Jason clarified that the cost would be scalable based on employee headcount as a per employee fee of approximately $22 to $25.
Per employee per pay period,
Yeah.
and we have 49 employees.
69.
This is straight out of the notes, and then it says. The cost analyst was a per pay period cost of 13,150 for 65 employees.
That's not right. That can't be right.
Oh,
40,000 a year.
yeah, that's more in line with what they presented.
What is that? What was the total of that? Would you have that up?
40,300 a year. And I did 62 employees times 25 times 26. And just being on the inside, that's what we discussed. That's the number that keeps coming up.
Yeah, that was on the quote they gave us, so.
Right, well, maybe he made a typo in the notes. I guess what we're.
No, that number came right out of the contract that you had, that's in there 13.
Yeah, there's no way we're paying $13,000 every 2 weeks.
It's 1,316.26 per pay period that I wrote. down.
1,300, not 13.
Yeah, not 13.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, got an extra zero in there.
Yeah,
I guess when they transcribe the notes, you see that.
there's a comment out of place.
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you.
All right,
That's better.
Did you add that one up? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I think that what I was hoping you could kind of explain is we're gonna be saving money on an annual.
Yeah, well. Yeah, we're saving money because what we were paying annually for access was about 76,000, 73 to 76,000. It's 70,000. That's what they quoted, the cost would be, and then they gave us a 50% discount. That's why it was quoted at 37. And they said for the life of our contract with them, or life, as long as we stay with them, that price would remain the same. So But like I said before, with healthcare coming, I don't know if we're gonna be awash because of the extra cost it might be if we're not under PDO, what they quote. So
Any other questions for James?
James, I have more of like a forecast or foreshadowing kind of question for you. Based upon your year being here more than a year now. Thinking about winter, thinking about this time of year, and also thinking about, you said something about guests will need to double up on cabins. And I know you don't, well, you provide us the client demographic support, but you don't report on it during our large group meetings. But I wanted to bring us to the mental health disorder chart. And we have currently 48.6, more, almost half of our clients who are mental health disorder, who have said yes to identifying themselves as needing or having a mental health disorder. So I'm curious about what that foreshadowing or what your thoughts are when we have guests in double cabins who half of our guests have already explained to us that they have mental health disorder. What does that look like? What do you imagine if we have like double up in guests and what that means to increase over the next couple of months with our guest occupancy, knowing that the demographics report says that half of them have, some mental health disorder? What does that mean? Or maybe nothing, but I wanted to kind of get your gist of it.
it means a lot. It has potential to be very impactful on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that now. We have tried to see what that would look like by asking some people to bunk up together. And I didn't want to continue to do that because it's too disturbing. We don't need to. I know we have specifically some people that are adamantly opposed to being in a cabin with someone else. But we do have inside, they're in a larger congregate setting. So what we've started to see is that some people like to be in the shelter in that big room with all the beds, and some people love to be outside. And so when we start to double up, we're gonna do the best we can by some of the people we know what some of their preferences are. We have the same person working majority of the time. We have a lead and a DSA that work, they're assigned to the pallet shelter, so they're getting to know the people and know what they want. And so we'll work on the preferences of what we know about people, and we'll be asking people. And I said this a couple of months ago that the first assignment to cabins would be random assignments to cabins. And before we put someone in a cabin with somebody else, we'll ask them, is this something that you're able to do? Is bunk with somebody else? We'll ask the person that was assigned previously first, is this something that are you willing to have a roommate? And then we'll see if they're compatible, if they know each other, there's history. And if they don't, we'll try to move that around the best we can. And then we'll offer the spaces in the shelter to account for that. So we'll try to accommodate as much as we can that somebody has a bed somewhere.
Yeah.
And Kim can speak more to that because she's been working directly with her staff, but we think it's been working, and until we do it, we don't know how it's really gonna turn out, but once we start to do more weather related things, we'll start to get to know the people that absolutely need to be apart or need to be together. So we'll get a better handle of that. Kim, you want to speak about some of that?
Yeah, they get a choice on whether they want to be inside or outside. My fear right now is they've been outside in a cabin by themselves. And so, the DSA I have out there, as well as myself, know most of the folks that are coming. And so while we'll do random assignments the first go, so the second person that we put in that cabin, we will actually choose. And so that way, because we know them so well, we'll be able to kind of balance that out. They know that they're gonna have to double up, because that's the way it was designed. My fear is if we get 45 days of not being able to leave again next year, on what that's gonna look like, but we'll have to play that by ear and kind of figure that as we go. I wanna point out too, that if you subtract the 18, we're almost at capacity inside, almost all the nights, with 30 in night by night. So, we will definitely need the doubling up outside in order to house everybody.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know that, just wondering about the experience and knowing that we have information about our client demographics that could play a part in how the experience is
Absolutely.
within the shelter, within a congregate living shelter. So I just wanted to see you're taking note of that, you're trauma informed, you're using a very healing approach and lens. So yeah, thank you. I just wanted a confirmation of what I already knew that is happening in there. That what you would anticipate happening in the next couple of months too with that.
And sometimes it takes us working with individuals longer. And so they get to trust some of the decisions we make that we're actually hearing what they have to say. I know Kim's getting an email from one of our guests. He's already saying he doesn't want somebody in there.
Oh, I know him so well.
Yeah. And I know he doesn't, and so we will do what we can to accommodate him. He might be the last cabin that has, if he's there, he might not get one until we just have to say we have to have an alternative, or he might just be by himself.
Although
We'll
I
figure that out.
kind of have some plans for him, because I know who he
Yeah.
kind of hangs out with, I know who he's more comfortable with. And so that might be something that we try. He was with me over at the village, and so I kind of.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions for James?
So you guys know, how many more you can kind of expect that are gonna be needed? You know, that are still
I don't
still out.
I don't have a count now, but the last I heard from Misty, there was about maybe 30 to 50 individuals that she knows, but there are people that are new coming up all the time.
Yeah.
I think somebody has a farm, I forget the name of the farm, and people are coming there.
Yeah,
So it's new people, it's people that are not from Douglas County that are coming.
yeah, there was like 28 or so that were out, like in that area, but I don't know what the count is currently at Centennial, but Centennial's still, I mean, when I pulled up this morning, I saw a guy and there's like a little patch behind. There were, somebody camping out back in there, but, so I know and I know down the hill, there's, a large group of people that are definitely not gonna wanna be in the elements coming up. I just don't know what the count is. Or maybe we could send some of our guys, we could walk down and see if we can interact. We've interacted
I
before.
don't think Misty's on.
No, she's not.
On Centennial?
No, I would say.
Oh,
on here,
yeah.
she would have the count from 8:13.
Does the Earth National Homeless Outreach still do that?
The city,
It's the HRT now.
the city almost response to
I think they have two people on outreach team. They disbanded, but they have Howard and Asher, I think, are still working.
We'd be happy to kind of assist if they wanted to kind of go down, but I know there's like 3 or 4 spots in those woods that they kind of, built some structures and then camped out, but when it gets cold, boy.
And I know one of the things, we had a meeting about weather emergency. And when there's weather emergency, we're not checking anything. If you say you need a place for a taking land, as long as we have beds. But then when we run out of beds, we'll find spaces for people to shelter overnight.
Have they identified any, like, just being new to this whole thing, like any potential temporary, like hotel kind of situations or no?
No, the word is that is not happening this year.
That's not gonna happen at all.
Right.
Yeah.
City's not doing a winter shelter this year.
So you might have, I don't know if you saw the recent message from the city, basically was saying that this year LCS will be the sole operator. So the thought is, I think that there's capacity now to be able to handle the potential need. But
And I think the thought is that they've really kind of tamped down on out of town people coming there. We're only serving locals, and there have been a large number in the past of people who were not local. So they believe that the number will be less.
So we think that, I mean, based off the count, where do we think we're at? Are we at 500 in total? And we got 253 at the shelter now?
I think our count was 360,
60, something like that,
yeah,
360.
That was last January?
yeah.
16, okay.
I will say that as of like, I was in a shelter last year. We are approximately at the same number of beds that we were even when they were doing overflows. Because we have the extra 48 beds outside. And so, if you're gonna add that to the overflow, now we had special use permit, which went up to 140, but we have about the same number of beds that we had last year with the overflows.
And how,
If John was here, he could give you more
Oh, he
details,
was rattled.
because he's been,
Yeah.
he's like, basically last year, his operation was the overflow.
It was the initial,
But
yeah.
one of the challenges is we have to message clearly to the public that that's really not an option, that we're gonna do it all with LCS. And if people understand that that's the approach we're taking, then they're more likely to use LCS. Instead of holding out for like 12,
oh,
that'd
yeah,
be another option.
yeah, maybe something else could happen.
Yeah, one of the things that caused, just knowing we had a lot of people standing by, to open shelters that we didn't have to open. So sometimes the overflow would have one or two people that we could have housed at the shelter, no matter what the temperature was, because people have to be ready to go when that happens. And like Kim was saying, we had at least, in the heat of that, we had at least 2 overflow shelters at any time, and maybe one time there was 3. But that was an extra 25 in each overflow, so that's 50 beds, and now we have 48 additional beds at the shelter now, so we're thinking that'll be that.
Yeah.
But I know we've had as many people as we could in the shelter when we needed to, and so we'll continue to do that as we need to.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, let's go down to finance report. Karen, I was thinking, I know in the exec committee, we're talking a little bit about how to streamline the finance report, and I think every month you've iterated the notes. And I thought the ones you did this month were really well done, and so I don't know if it'd be helpful or other board members have an opinion about this, but rather than scrolling through all the financial statements, maybe going through the notes would be more useful. But if you have other thoughts on this, we're just trying to think about how to best utilize our time to do the financial stuff. Sorry for my voice.
I think the notes would be great. And then if people have looked at the financials and have specific questions about any particular numbers or changes, we can address those, but I think the notes are at high levels fine for me.
I've reorganized them this month so that if we were to go look at the financial statements, they would still be ordered. So we started with the statements of revenue, or not revenues, statements of net assets and liabilities. And then go on to the statements of revenues and expenditures. I did also make a couple of other changes to the financial statements that I just now noticed. It's back when I finally got everything transitioned over from our previous accounting system. I was looking at these financial statements, I don't know how many times, and I was going, awesome. So there were things that I know that I missed, but it be like one of the things that I noticed was on the actuals versus budget. I didn't have an operating income line like I do on the regular statements of revenues and expenditures. So now that that's there. I also moved accounting and legal fees from other operating expenses to in-office expenses to professional services. So they're all there, and I changed the heading from other professional services to just professional services. So that way it just kind of flows a lot better, makes a lot more sense. We still have the section data that I've put together based on how we budgeted last year, because I've created all those sub buckets, so we know exactly where we're spending our money. But just a couple little changes on there, they're minor, but they're impactful.
Well, if you wanna, I mean, I know I'm kind of just throwing this out there without talking about it every time. I think we're just trying to, on the exec committee, trying to think through like, how do we best approach the financial discussions we have, and so.
Yeah.
However you wanna do it tonight is fine,
Okay.
just wanted to
Well,
toss out that your notes are. I appreciate your continued kind of development on that. The narrative felt to me pretty clear, like I was not a very. If finances weren't my thing, I felt like your narrative actually was a nicely done narrative that would help a non-financial person to make sense of where we at.
okay,
So,
great, thank you for.
I appreciate that, yeah, I appreciate that too, and I did have one note, just one because of now the HR and moving from absent to the paychecks. Would that mean, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not, nothing to do with the other, but would that affect the accounting and legal fees under other professional services, do you think, that would lower the cost or increase?
Well, okay, so where access fees sit right now, is on its own accounting line called professional employment employer organization, which is what accent is. Perhaps I'll create, I don't know if I want to create it, I think I'll do like a hash. Because we're not going to PEO with paychecks, it's just gonna be HR consulting. So it might just be PEO/HR consulting, so that you can see the comparison between this here, it's on the one line versus two different lines. But yes, there will be
Your hopes to keep that consistency.
so yes, it will be saving money there specifically. Accounting and legal fees for this next year though, will be going up because we'll need to consult with our union attorney. As we enter collective bargaining agreement negotiations again, so.
in our audit.
Yeah, and
the
our audit.
code-
And
That'll
I
probably be more.
anticipate that our audit will cost about $20,000, if not a little bit more, because they bump it up every year. But then another maybe $20,000 for attorney's fees. I hope that's it, but. I don't know. Just trying, I don't know if that's too.
Attorney fees
That seems a little high for what we did
for you
last
again?
time.
Yeah.
We didn't,
I was like, what, when did we get to?
No.
so we didn't spend, it wasn't that expensive.
working.
But I will have some extra comments regarding our budget, when we get to that point.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so, this month, we kind of bounced back because we got the last city payment for the year. So at the end of October, our cash position stands at $977,208. Compared to $608,000 in October 2024. So it's up significantly, about $500,000 due to the Q4 city payment. A 61% increase of year over year. Our,
This, am I on the right page?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Like I said, I organized it so that everyone's looking at what I'm gonna be talking about.
Okay.
Total fixed assets right now are at 3.6 million, net of depreciation. Construction in progress has 54,900 in it, which represents the PEC bills for the interior remodel. We'll have some of that will stay there. I'm thinking of AP, sorry, but let's continue. We're still waiting on information back from the city regarding the Pallet 24 cabins, since those are not on our books yet. I'm thinking that they're gonna be waiting on their auditors, or not their auditors, but their accountants to tell them how they want to deal with the transfer. But I do think that might be more towards when we get into the audit. I don't know if they're actively pursuing anything right now, but, when they do something on their books, we'll do something on our books, and that'll be necessary anyway, because our financials will be reported along with theirs. In June. Or July, I'm sorry, June 30th is when they're here, so.
Is somebody in legal or some department working on it?
I believe so. I've reached out to their financial director of the city, she did respond though that, there's some concerns because the cabins were purchased with ARPA funds and I think some CDBG. And so then there's like some extra criteria that go along with that. So for now, the pallet 24 cabins, which there's 25 of them, are still on their books. And we are not
Because
looking at that.
they still own them, we don't own them yet, so they're looking at how do they give them to us, and we'll legally sell them to us, whatever, they're figuring out how to transfer their ownership. Just because we're managing them now doesn't mean we own them, and so there has to be some transfer of ownership before they can transfer. to our
Right,
books.
exactly. And what,
Who's insuring them?
Hmm?
Who has insurance on? I would assume it's.
I would assume the city does because that's their property. Yeah,
Yikes.
so,
So much shit yet.
and the other aspect that Rochelle Matthews pointed out, she's the finance director of the city, had, she mentioned that, there, under ARPA, there needs to be some sort of maintenance agreement, some kind of prescriptive things that go along with the cabin, so that's what's kind of holding that up. As I mentioned, it's not going to negatively impact our financial statements because this is still an asset. It just has not been transferred yet, and what she would like to see, she isn't Rochelle, would like to see is like a legal transfer over to LCS, and that come from the top.
But it might negatively impact our financials when we're paying the insurance and maintenance contracts.
Right,
It will.
and,
Yeah, well.
and here's the thing, I mean. You know, I'm practice law. Right now. If nobody's insurance knows about them, if they're being operated for the purpose that they are. Then most insurance carriers might deny coverage. And I don't think it's a good risk to not make sure at least somebody's insurance knows about them, knows what they're being operated as, and really is saying, yes, they're covered. Because without that, both the shelter and the city are on the hook for anything that happens. And neither insurance might cover it. So I just think we should talk to somebody.
To the physical structures, LCS's insurance would covers what human, that's on our property, our location.
Yeah, maybe.
Somebody. It's medical.
Well, but our carrier needs to know that we just expanded by 24.
Yes.
I believe they do know it because when we were renegotiating, not renegotiating, but we were going through the renewals, our renewal starts at the end of June. And so we were just getting started on that, so we had mentioned it to them, but I'll be sure to reach back out to our insurance carrier to see if this is going to be a problem or a risk that we might face.
The city needs to let us know if they're covering physical.
Yeah, no, it's good just to get clarification for sure.
And if it's gonna take a while, then. We got people in there already.
Somebody wanna sell those to us?
For like a dollar.
Yeah, that's what Misty mentioned last month, is that they're working on some sort of way to transfer ownership to those units to us. And so I'm just kind of waiting on them. Let's see if I there. Okay, so next up is liabilities, which should be on the next page. Current liabilities is 168,000, down from September's 221,000, primarily a lot of Pallet 24 related items. This includes $52,436 in accrued payroll and $4,700 in accrued payroll taxes, and then $2,800 in 401k payable. Because we had that payroll right at 10/31. Long-term liabilities is the city of Lawrence loan. We're at 326,000. Total liabilities is 494,000. Total net assets is 4.2 million compared to almost 3.4 million in October of 2024. With the city payment, we're at current year net earnings of 465,000. Equity increased at 24.5% year over year. And then, of course, all banks, prepaid accounts and liability accounts are reconciled monthly with no unexplained differences. Bank reconciliations are provided to the board chair, Charlie, for oversight and transparency, ensuring the reliability and accuracy of these bank statements. Let's go to budgets versus actuals, because that's gonna give us everything. Okay, October delivered exceptional financial results with total revenues of 954,767. Again, the majority of that being the city payment. We nearly met budget expectations. We only had a $630 shortfall. Total operating expenses were 352,000 compared to budgeted 356,000. So we did have favorable savings of about $3,700, 1% under budget. The net surplus for the month was $583,632, nearly matching the budgeted surplus of $583,336. Highlights that city payment. I'm gonna touch on this, but for Douglas County, I reported in October 49,353. This is again a move towards making our financial statements more accurate. I'm accruing the services for October on October 31st. So for September services, I accrued them on September 1st, October 1st, sorry, for September services. And so then it looks like there's a double payment, but I've invoiced them on October 31st. We did receive that payment and I deposited it today, actually. So that looks like that, but it'll go back to the 24,667 in subsequent months. Individual donations were $9,500, about 14% above budget for the month. We did receive some preliminary revenues from the gala at about $6,000. We had advanced table payments, and then we also had early donations. And then, as you all know, the event is held on the 7th of this month. Then between foundation and community auction revenue, we got about $14,000 in October. Expense wise, payrolls are biggest one as per usual, 286,000. It's about 3% above monthly budget, but year to date we still have favorable variance. Groceries was also over budget this month, about 31%. In October it was 16,488.
What accounts for that? So that's a big overage in groceries.
In groceries, what accounts for that?
Yeah, why is it so much more than we anticipated?
I think just because we're serving more people, you know, we kind of anticipated that we would have more people to serve this year. And so Chef for hot breakfast, she likes to order sausages for everyone, and that's quite expensive for the
Okay, I don't need to know
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, but-
It's more people.
Yeah, it's more people, but yeah,
And
So
more,
ultimately, that's just something to be watching in next year's.
Yeah,
budget
yes.
especially
Once
food
when it
costs.
goes up
right.
and increase by percentage,
Mhm.
what we know also will just be
Yeah.
grocery costs increase.
Right, and I visited with her this week, to go over that, so and I've invited her to have read-only access so she can keep an eye on that grocery budget, but she's been making comparisons between Cisco and, US Foods, and she also continues to look at things that we can obtain from, Sam's Club, for cost savings.
I think another part of that is we're not getting as much from USDA and from harvesters as we were before.
I bet that's right.
Operational supplies, we're about 10% over budget, primarily due to pallet 24 again. This month it was $8,812. And then for repairs and maintenance is our last big item, 7,315 for the month, which is 24% under budget.
What goes into repairs and maintenance on the monthly? On the pallet?
On the pallet specifically, or just general? So not for pallet 24, we've not had too many repairs because it's still fairly new.
So did I misunderstand $7,000?
This is overall.
Oh, for the whole shoulder. Never mind.
Organization
Never
wide,
mind my,
yeah.
never mind my question.
But to answer your question, we have a lot of plumbing issues, but we're under budget, but we have been seeing a lot of different plumbing
And you
issues.
think that's coming from the pallet?
No, it's not coming from the pallet, but we have gotten our bills for the electricity out of the pallet, so we're getting an increase of electricity.
It's really not as significant as you would think, because I did look at that, I think
We're awful.
I think that there's misunderstanding there, because I said that we were over budget on operational supplies, and that was primarily due to pallet 24.
I just, when you said $7,000, I was like, $7,000 a month on pallet?
No.
I was like,
No,
what?
organizationally wide, that includes supplies for our own
Got it.
part-time repair person.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, I had a question and I'm looking at your actual versus budget. And I see expenses in what is called the rapid rehousing line,
Mhm.
but I don't see that line up in the income side. Is that the one where we recognized it last year and now we're spending it this year? Do we have a rapid rehousing grant?
We spend it all, so that's why it's there. It came in, we spent it, and
Oh, okay, you're referring to revenues, right? You're in the
Well,
income.
I'm looking at operating expense in what is line 51070 through 51074, and it has housing assistance, rental assistant, rental arrears, security deposits, utility assistance.
Right.
Under a thing called rapid rehab. Now, that's an expense,
Mhm.
but I don't see a rapid rehousing grant.
So that falls under the ESG.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, we're nearly on budget for October. We did have 8% favorable over budget on individual donations. We didn't budget for events this year, so we're way over what we budgeted. And then overall, we are 1% under budget, expense wise.
Why are we not budgeting for events?
We did
We
not,
didn't, but
we did not have that as a budget when we approved it in December of last year. But then we had an event.
We have an event and now we're budgeting for one next year. We have a template essentially. I mentioned the Douglas County revenue accrual, and payroll accrual last month. And that's about it. I do have some information on FTEs. FTEs overall for October, we're at 54.84, from on page 4 of 7. And we budgeted for 57 3/4, so we are under our FTE budget. And then for October volunteers, we had 89.66 volunteer hours. It's the second highest monthly volunteer hour this year, which equates to $2,767.
What do we factor per hour for volunteers?
$30.86.
Is that what our staff makes on the average?
No.
Why
it's-
are we giving the volunteers a budget is more than what staff makes?
I think it's national.
It's based
Is that
on
the
the,
states, is that what the state tells us to use?
it's the independent sectors, right?
For the state of Kansas.
Yes, for the state of Kansas, the nationwide it's 34, but specifically for the state of Kansas, it's $30.86 per hour. And that's all I have, unless you all have questions.
Any questions? All right, I'd entertain a motion to accept the financial statements for October.
I'll motion,
Yeah,
yes, I'll
Thank
make a
you,
motion.
Christina. Is there a second? Thank you, David. Motion been made and seconded to accept the October 2025 financial statements. If there's no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is the executive committee report. I don't know, my voice is kind of getting lost today, but our executive committee meets essentially weekly with James. Karen is usually also at those meetings. And most recently, our discussions have been around the budget. I think would be the bulk of that. Are there any other things you guys have in mind, Christina? or Meg?
Heard from Paychecks about.
Yeah.
HR services and the budget about.
Yeah. Okay. Next item is the advisory committee report. James, do you want to give us an update?
I was given approval by the board to seek out individuals that I would want to be on advisory board. Reached out to 6 individuals. I'm gonna reach out to 2 more. I want to start with 8, but right now I have 6 that I want to get approved, and I can talk about each one or give you a little breakdown of each one. If you have one.
Sure.
Okay, so first one is Kelby Sanders. Kelby works for Mirror Incorporated. He does assessments for them. He works on the HRT team. And I think he'd be a great asset. He comes from the substance use disorder world, and he does assessments for HRT. He works on the outreach team and he works in Mirror Corporate, so I think he'd be a great addition. We have one of our staff members, Amanda. She had lived experience. She's actually a staff member. She's part of the union. I think she'd be great. Vicky Pepperdine, she works at the Willow. She was one of our original advisory board members, so she was already approved by everybody. I think she'd be great. I have Aaron Thacker. He's a tech contractor, community person. I think everybody knows Aaron, so I think Aaron would be great. We considered him for a board member, but we had some conflicts. So I think Aaron would be great. And then I have Cheryl Sanders. Everybody knows Cheryl.
That's great.
Cheryl wants to be in the advisory.
Talked to her and asked her, she said yes.
Nice.
I love that, so those are, I think, that's 6. Those are the 6 people that I would recommend right now. Do that.
That's great.
And James, do you feel like this is, well, I feel like the barrier to the last advisory board was just the commitment of time and the recurring and, just to gather everyone, and this is a volunteer position and it's, contributing time to that it's pretty difficult outside of your own work-life expectance. Do you feel like this board will be engaged? Do you feel like that you have a relationship that you're building? What does the onboarding look like? What does that look like to even just kind of engage with this board?
I put that on the application this time, what the commitments would be, if they want to meet, and I plan to have an initial meeting with everybody. I did write some policies that I wanted to start with, and I think we can refine the policy. I have to go back and find the whatever I put together that talks about why we have an advisory board for the shelter and how we advise the board of directors. I only have 5 here. I thought I had 6. This is 5. We had another person that was on the board. I don't think we were able to reach out to them. And then we had another person, but yeah, we're going to talk about those commitments, and I want to meet at least quarterly. And we could meet more if they're able to. And we'll talk about how we take on issues. And I wanted to develop a format where we can have guests contribute concerns or questions to open format. I wanted to also have a way the community, we can do that with the community. And so we can get those comments, concerns, and then talk about what do we need to do to incentivize the board on what we're seeing. We're going to talk about fundraising. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, and then advise the board on that. We'll take current topics in the community, housing. I mean, we'll talk about all those things and how, how it impacts the people we serve. and what could we be doing different to make a better impact? So I think
Doing like a
that's-
SWOT analysis, and you'll be doing that and continue on going through what barriers exist to insurance maintenance. I think that's good. Thank
And
you.
then we want to be able to, for the board to say, hey, we're thinking about this, can the advisory board look at that and give us some feedback on that so we can do that. I wanna make sure that I don't overcommit the advisory board, and I want us to be positive. Also built in
Real
this,
specific and narrow in your scope, like
Right.
these are the top 3 things this board is gonna talk about,
Right.
and is, these things can go.
I also built
They can go everywhere and.
I also built in here a way to assess, how well we've done as advisory board, and so I'm just there to help organize the meetings and things like that. I don't want to be influential on what they talk about or with the feedback they give. Also put in here, and it was recommended, in the research I did, that we have a, board liaison that just attends and just is there to be able to bring some of the information to the board about what they're seeing at the advisory board, so they can be at all meetings. Like, they wouldn't be voting on the advisory board, they would just be there, like I'm here at this board, so something like that. And that doesn't have to happen, but I think it would be.
It's in the bylaws, actually.
Is it
So,
okay?
Yeah, I was gonna just, those of you who haven't paid close attention to the bylaws. The bylaws call for the creation of this advisory committee, and then, kind of articulate that the executive director is responsible for, convening the advisory committee. I know we keep calling it advisory board, but in the bylaws, it's the advisory committee.
I can change.
And then the advisory committee can have up to 2 of its members that can serve as ex officio, basically members of this board. They don't have a vote, but they are otherwise given capacity to participate in our board meetings. And part of that was intended to allow for employees of the shelter, employees of the city, employees of the county to have a more official way to participate in our board proceedings. You've probably noticed that Jill and Misty are always most often attending our meetings virtually, and they will chime in. That is a practice that the previous board had kind of allowed. And it's a practice that we've continued to allow, but it has no real official sanction, other than that we've just had a practice of doing that. So when the bylaws were revised, that was kind of the thought, was that we need to kind of make a clearer way to authorize that kind of activity, so that it doesn't just feel a little bit rogue. So it might then make sense, like Misty might be a member of the advisory committee, and then she could sit here as a non-voting member of the board, as a appointee by the advisory committee. Now, that advisory committee concept it's been quite a while since we first started trying to get this thing created. And I assume it's still kind of a conceptual idea, so if we want to change that, we would probably just need to think about like making an amendment to our bylaws, but that's kind of some of the background of what the intention was of it. And in the bylaws, it's very clear that if you're an employee of the city or the county or LCS, you can't serve on the on the board. And that was also a very deliberate decision of the previous board in that negotiation with the city about changes that occurred in 2023. So, is there any other questions, or are you guys interested in making a motion to accept these 5 individuals?
Yeah.
To the advisory committee?
Also, just adding to that, the opportunity for there to be some stipends and financial compensation for participation on advisory boards is governed by the county. And so maybe bringing Misty into the conversation about the advisory boards and the opportunity for maybe there being some fiscal assistance to contribute their expertise, their lived experience to this great board. or to this committee as advisory board, I think it's something to propose and talk about. Maybe that influence in your first meeting to talk about that line, and but also just kind of confirm it with Misty, and confirm it with Jill and the group in the county, to make sure that's something that's, and as an option, an alternative, and something to further
I think
examine.
it's a good practice.
I think so
I
too.
do have an unhoused person that I want to interview, to be on part of this, advisory board, and I'll flesh it out between now and next month to talk to him, see, and have him do an application. So I think that'd be great, I think he'd be beneficial.
Sorry, do you mean to disrupt
No,
you?
is there-
Motion? Yeah.
Motion to accept these 5 members to the advisory committee.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Christina and Shannon. If there's no other discussion on the motion, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, thank you. For the fundraising committee report, the fundraising committee has not met since the last board meeting. I will say that, the efforts to continue doing board recruitment, continued, but it was primarily John and I that met with Kevin Kressig, who's been waiting patiently. You know, we were kind of, our efforts were focused around recruiting someone who has expertise in marketing, accounting, and law. So when we got Megan, it was kind of like a, I don't know, I was gonna say a twofer, but really a threefer. Like
I got no law.
no, but you brought in not just experience around marketing, but also fundraising, executive director kind of level experience. So I think you were clearly like more than the fundraising committee was expecting, and we appreciate that. Kevin is I mean, we'll have him on the agenda later, but I just wanted to share, like, John and I both know him, and we met with him to kind of further answer any questions he's had. I know John's been doing most of the recruitment efforts. But that, otherwise, the fundraising committee per se hasn't met, but a couple of us, Chicani, sorry, we didn't include you in that, but we just figured since we both knew Kevin, we meet with him and get his questions answered. Next item is the annual performance review committee report. You guys have anything to report?
Did you send out the document there?
I did, I can.
Shannon and I have had a couple of conversations around it and put together a sort of a framework. Within that, we will need to make some actual. What am I looking for, Shannon? Surveys, that kind of materials that go with it, but you have the framework, and the idea is that we'll get feedback from James, we'll get feedback from James's direct reports. We will then kind of compile all of that, look at our own experience, and then what we really want is to come up with goals. So ultimately, this is meant to be a coaching and goal setting experience for us to be in lockstep and communication with James about what's gonna happen in the next year, what's the reflection on what's already happened. Did I get that right, Shannon?
Yeah, and I think the thing that would be super helpful is to pay attention to the timelines that we set out, because otherwise, poor Jim, we string it out.
Yeah, we don't like that.
If we don't get a response.
We wanted to get this done quickly, so we'll develop some tools and things that will go out, but there is a timeline in there, and it needs to be happening primarily in December. So that at least by the 1st of February, we have this complete. We're not gonna drag this out for 6 months.
Thank you. I forwarded to Mercedes Rowland also as a direct report, and I think she was left off that email. I just forwarded it to her. Okay, that you sent out to her.
Yeah.
I added it.
Are there questions, comments, thoughts on the proposal?
Yes, this is Shikani. I had we just got the report yesterday, right? Is that correct? It went out yesterday afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And with work and other obligations, I was just able to kind of look at it before the meeting. So I think the draft is a strong foundation, but I wanted to basically have the time to kind of go over it and talk to, for us to collaborate on some of the questions that I had just looking at it, like the process ties the evaluation of compensation, right, to the direct reports, like, I'm sorry, the process ties evaluation to the compensation. Are we gonna, is it directly linked to performance outcome or inform more broadly? Or are we gonna add subsequent steps, and goals, document how they're tracked throughout the year? There's just some things that I think I voiced at the last meeting when this committee was formed that I just haven't had time to kind of look over it the way that I'd like
Yeah,
because we just got it yesterday.
I think we're completely open. If you wanna take a look at it and send any suggestions or questions you have.
Absolutely, this is just the framework at this point, we haven't.
Right, exactly.
Reviews,
Yeah.
and and I think you bring up a good point about goal setting and compensation. And this evaluation being tied, I don't necessarily imagine, and maybe I need to do some linguistic tweaking here, but.
Hmm.
I don't usually think an evaluation and compensation are directly linked, or that there is a. Sort of matrix for that. Usually
Okay.
those are separate conversations, although obviously once that compensation comes up, question comes up. It does become a conversation of what came out of the evaluation. I mean, I think it's hard not to, performance and compensation do go together, but they are not matrix linked. Does that make sense?
Right. And then I had a question like with the balance of the input. So feedback is going to be gathered from, board members, direct reports. Are we gonna, like I said, this is the framework. Are we gonna understand or get further information of how much weight each group input carries, in the final evaluation? So
Well, you just go down one.
that's just this is great. I want to definitely acknowledge the effort, right? That with everything and understand that this is the framework, but I just had concerns that I just haven't like simply been able to review it or in detail, right? To say, yeah, this is it, even though I get the concept and why we're doing it.
Thank you, Chicago.
Thank you.
Is there something else you want me to show?
I mean, ultimately, I shy away from a lot of sort of matrices, so. You have qualitative and quantitative, and I prefer for us to build from data to a narrative. And so, I don't know if that helps to I mean, I don't know if that's helpful to you or not.
When you say,
Yeah, I mean, I understand, yeah, that, and like I said, I know it's just a framework. I was looking over it, and it's great, but I want to, yeah, I just had a few questions there. So,
Please send them to us.
so I would say, kind of situating it for those that were here last year. But stood out for me were the, in terms of adjustments, is that the feedback from staff that we did last year would be, in this case, limited to the direct reports. And so that is probably a smaller group of staff, but it seemed like a clear distinction from how we did it in the past. The other feedback that we collected last year was from what were kind of what I call the funding partners, basically. Misty and Jill and Brandon. That's not included in this proposal. And then the other part. There's a mention of a governance committee.
Yeah, that's probably just my language, because we can. At the Willow, I had a governance committee, so I think I just use that. I can clean that up.
And then the final part that I was kind of keying in on is the thing we didn't do at all last year was develop written goals. So
Ultimately, that's the goal.
we had not like given James like for his performance for the 2025 year, what was expected. We had some discussions in June, or I think it was actually July of 24, about what was needed kind of for the next 12 to 18 months. That's about the only discussion I can think of where we, as a board, provided feedback on what direction we needed to see the agency go. But we didn't formalize that in a set of goals, and then we also didn't give them feedback throughout the year 2025 on how we might be making progress or not towards those goals. So I appreciate kind of the addition of that. I wanted to maybe clarify if the exec committee would be a sufficient proxy for the governance committee.
Yeah, that's.
Or well, but the board might want to have a committee, like creating this performance review committee, is a one way to think about it, is maybe we just every year see who wants to volunteer to help with this and do this kind of committee. But I wasn't sure if that was what.
So I kind of, I guess when I see a governance committee, which is like I said, the language I always had in my prior documents. Compiling the summaries and drafting a summary report, I think it's just us as the people who are kind of facilitating this. So it's not.
It's clerical or.
Oh.
It's clear.
Administrative.
And
it's
when,
not-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead, Connie.
When you say just us, do you mean the board or do you mean the annual performance committee?
The performance review committee.
Okay. And yeah, so and that's the type of things that I think like, right, we need to know or make clear. Yeah, yeah. Like the process details. I just, and like you said, I could just be, it's just, I just glanced at it this evening, so that might be a part of it, but that cleared the question I had up. Thank you with that.
Senior reviews.
I just, again, fuzzy mind, I just want to know who is receiving this evaluation and who is going to be responsible for completing. Is this the board? Or are we sending this out as an evaluation team that we are receiving from vendors or any multi-sector partners that James is in? It's just internal.
I mean, it's his direct reports
Okay.
and us.
Okay.
And I do think we should maybe have a conversation about our government partners, because I mean, I really do think the first year and a half or whatever, we're just trying to keep people from freezing to death and getting the pallets and getting the shelter fixed. And I mean, that was a crisis management environment pretty much for a year at least, maybe more. I think we're really changing. I mean, our funders certainly have a lot to say about the operation, but I think they should be saying it to us. I think it could be confusing to be in James's position if he has people, our funding partners telling him one thing to do and we're saying, why are we doing that?
Yeah.
And so I think we want to now start really thinking about, maybe we want their feedback, but we might not want them to control the conversation.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah, I
about,
think I'm really careful about that, and being so new, I'm not 100% sure I still fully understand the relationships between the funders and us, because this is different than the other nonprofits, so. For me, this is a conversation between us and James's reports, and us and James and us, and. A 360, which is, kind of a full, which would include information from the whole staff and the community and the other funders and
and the
vendors and, that's a
client.
whole different, that's a whole different kind of executive review. I'm not against those kinds of executive reviews, but I don't think they're an every year occurrence. So I think that's intentional, but this one is not meant to be a 360.
I also think it doesn't, outside of, annual performance review for the ED position, there's other ways we could seek out,
Certainly,
feedback, right?
we're all
right,
in service of feedback. Always, all of us everywhere, that's.
well, and I agree with you, I mean, I think what we wanna say is, hey, funders, are we doing what you want us to do versus is James doing what you want us to, what,
Right.
right, because we are a bigger organization than one person and that can get, I mean, I wouldn't wanna
Yeah.
be in that seat where I feel like I don't exactly know who my boss is.
Where my boss is.
You know? And
Very scary.
and who I need to please and who I don't, like who's telling me what my strategic plan is, what my goals are.
Yeah, I think my conversation, my insertion of that is just to kind of help us kind of do that thought process about enhancing like objectivity, like to go outside of what external or to seek external input so that this becomes a really good mitigate, like an internal, so it just helps mitigate internal biases or potential conflicts within, what is a working board and others who would have some thoughts about the leadership and James's execution of it. And I just, trying to engage what that looks like for us to have a really comprehensive performance review. Basically, it's understanding that there's ways in which James interacts with the board and James interacts with other companies. And I wanted to get the holistic view of how your insertion into this executive director position has influenced outside and external partnerships. So that's just really, what my dive into there is, have we considered?
If there is a feeling from the board and our members that it needs to be different than. It's not about me, so this was just our pitch.
No, and I think, just examining the broader conversation is my pitch. I just want to make sure that we're talking about making it a balanced and unbiased assessment, and just knowing that external partnerships could have been, built over the course of years sitting in the executive director seat. And they might be some financial stewardship and financial and executive fundraising stewardship that you've created amongst other partners. And we would want to know like what that would look like. But I agree, it's, keeping it really policy and focus, and it's already expanding on how it was last year. I'm not including edits to make, I'm not suggesting any. I'm just, wanting to have a conversation about what that looks for assessment of an executive director in James' position that includes outside conversations about how he has improved the shelter.
Well, and I think that is covered in his self-evaluation, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
And I do think we should do what you're saying, but forward, right? Where we say, hey, we want you to foster these partnerships for 2026 because we see that will make the shelter work better. Or, hey, tell us what partnerships you think will help make the shelter work better and what you're gonna do in 2026. Because we didn't ask him to do that in 2025, I don't wanna be evaluating him on that.
Right, we can't. So that was the first thing I asked for when we came into this. I was like, well, where are his goals from last year? And it was kind of like, well, we had a lot of conversations and then we had so much to do that it wasn't structured that way. So
Right.
going forward.
You were like, don't go under.
Right.
That was our goal.
And he accomplished.
The door's open.
Yeah.
So I think going forward, we just are wanting a conversation and a goal setting experience where we get a kind of comprehensive understanding of what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the conversation. I think it's always good to continue diving into how we can improve, and you guys have done a great job on this.
Maybe can you give us a sense of what the next steps are that you've
Come back
mentioned?
up. There we go. So. We review and approve the process and forms. If, I don't have the forms, so that's not fair. I put that on there and then I didn't bring them to you. I can get them ready by next week and send them out. I'll send them to Charlie and let him deliver them out, but, I'll have that done before I leave for Thanksgiving so that it stays in the November category.
Okay.
And if there are no major concerns, we can move forward, but we will send, hopefully, in the first week of December, we will send James a self-evaluation form. We will also send a form to all of us for our replies and thoughts. And then, so that's the next step, is really to deliver those two pieces to both James and to the board.
And
The
then
next,
for the direct reports,
but by the 7th of December, I would say. Oh, in the direct reports, yes.
so how I'm interpreting that then is before this month is over, before next week. We're gonna, three of us are only gonna kind of finalize the forms, and then I'll push those out in December. We'll collect the feedback in December.
And we'll put some dates on it, because we do want to keep that pretty short. I think it's important, especially when we're asking the staff for their feedback. If we give them 6 weeks, they will take 6 weeks. Not because of, just because that's their
Yeah.
way they're talking. So I think a shorter window is actually
I think we did,
important.
feel like we did 2 weeks.
2 weeks is fine. So
Good.
hopefully before Christmas, we can have it closed.
So then timing wise, it looks like it would be the January board meeting where we would provide your review.
Cool.
Everybody, how's everybody feel about this? I don't think we have to make any decision tonight for this. We've already authorized you guys to do the work, so. Any other questions, concerns? Think if you, Connie, got any other feedback you wanna give? I recognize that there wasn't a lot of time to review. but-
Right, and I do have concerns, so I definitely, like I said, I appreciate that we have the document, the evaluation process, but before we say like we're finalizing anything, there are things, big things that I think we should address, like for instance, the governance committee. Okay, and that's just wording, but we got clarification that we're saying the governance committee is gonna be, or the annual committee are gonna be the people that do the reviews and give the information, but how do we know that it's done objectively and properly if we don't have any metrics? Or if we don't have anything to know how that grading or some of the things that I just previously mentioned. So I don't want to say that, while I know that we were working on this, and I appreciate once again all the work that went into the draft before we say we're going to finalize this as is or go with any dates that's set forward, I think we should address some of the things that, some of the concerns that I mentioned previously. The process details, was the steps with the goals.
So. I think the goals are probably gonna be something we would not, work on until later in January.
Right, because, right, we'd have to, compile the data and information, but I just think we would need those, like the goal setting, the compensation, how everything is tied in. I think we need those questions answered before we can say, yeah, it's a go, it's this, and this is how we're going to work forward. I don't think I feel comfortable with just two people on the board having, and once again, I may be missing something, right? It may just be my understanding of it because we're just seeing it. But that's my big concern.
Would you be interested in being on the committee?
I would be interested in being on the committee, but I think it's still something we all would want to know and need to know. Do you all, I mean, I guess what's the consensus? Am I with how the rest of you feel? Like I said, this is definitely something that's needed. It's a work in progress. Like you said, it's the framework, but there's some gaps that I think need to be answered before we say this is the way, and then trying to come back and fix it later, right? Because I think that's some of the things that we're trying to address by even having this form, right? So it's just like, I just want to make sure we adopt a process that's clear, fair, and sustainable.
I mean, we all kind of, I think we want that, that was the intention, was to think about what's the proper way to do this every year.
Right.
Last year, admittedly, we just threw something together, tried to think, like, do we do a little more than we did for the mid-year review?
Right.
I think we did, it was sufficient, but it wasn't thinking forward, and that's what we kind of asked the committee to do this year, was think through, like, what's the long-term approach we want to take. What I've taken from this is part of the calibration is making it clear that it's the partnership between the board and the ED, and the board needs to do an evaluation, and how the ED is supervising its direct reports is important to the board, so that would be part of what the board would consider. The change to not include staff feedback broadly was, I think, intentional to kind of say it's the direct report relationship that we want to better understand. And then the not including the funders was intentional to help clarify that the direction James needs to take is from the board, not necessarily from funders. Am I capturing that properly?
Yeah, and I mean, I think if anyone has any suggestions on something they see can be done better or needs to be reworded or whatever, please send it in. And
What I'm wondering is, conceptually, do we agree that, like, getting staff feedback, limiting that to the direct reports, is that something that we feel good about? Because that's one of the concepts in this framework.
And that's what I'm saying. We just need a little time to see what this framework is about, give an opportunity for us to look at it and maybe submit those questions, and then bring it back to each other or through, I don't know that we necessarily, I just need more time to look over it. And I just don't want to say, yeah, I finalize, I agree, when I have those concerns. That's where I am if we're getting feedback about it.
Shall we put a date? Shall we say? I would love to, that's what this is for, this is an opening. shall we, I know it's like. I don't wanna rush, but I also don't wanna. Be there forever, so. Because I'm leaving Tuesday for Thanksgiving, so I won't be available after Tuesday unless we push sort of the forum creation and the next step to. The first week in December, which is totally fine, and that would give everyone some time to reflect, send suggestions and sort of recalibrate.
I think, so I'd like to get some sense from all of you. If just this notion of what data are we bringing into the conversation about the review? If we're all comfortable with the idea that it's our assessment, James's self-evaluation, and the director reports. Cause that feels like
I'm comfortable with that.
that is.
Well, I think we have questions about that, though. I think that's what, like, that's part of what Christina was saying. I don't know that I necessarily have that question, but I do believe it's clear that those type of questions are there. I honestly think that if there's a time crunch and like I understand the urgency or the necessity in getting this done when we as soon as we can, but we also want to make sure it's right. We can of course update and things of that nature, but I personally um like I said, I'd like to look at it before I um and even address if I came up with those concerns by what I was able to view this evening, I just would like to look at it. I don't know, maybe we should discuss this at the next meeting. I mean, I know that's not what we may have, what we're looking for. But like I said, I addressed the concern of when we might have this at the last meeting and to get it the night before a board meeting.
That's fair. Are you all comfortable? We just.
Move this all forward 1 month,
Mhm.
it's fine with me.
What are others? Okay.
Okay with me, how do you feel about it?
I have a lot of feelings about it, but I'm gonna abstain from making comment. I feel like I appreciate Shikani's feedback. If this was me looking at evaluating someone else and there were no goals set, I think what should be done is a common ideal about what you want to evaluate a person on based on not having any pre-goal set for the prior year. And not, so that's what had to be determined. What's the matrix that you want to evaluate the person on? And I'm saying person, like, I don't know what it is, but it's me. So I think that needs to be established by the whole board. What do you want to evaluate me on?
Which is
Because,
kind of in here, should be.
yeah,
Well, self-evaluation.
yeah.
And then go on down.
Financial health, leadership, board relation, community relation.
Where you at?
The board feedback is not, it's strategic leadership, operations, governance partnership, external relations.
Has that form been developed yet as far as to, in each of those categories, what are the specific questions and metrics?
Which is the forms that I was gonna send out in the next few days.
And I think that's what Shikani saying she wants to see. For me, however you want to evaluate it, that's fine. And I really believe that, I really feel like that. I do appreciate Shannon saying that, am I getting evaluated by the whole community, the whole city of Lawrence? Last year, it was really hard for me to understand why that was. But I mean, it was okay. But it was really hard to understand why am I being evaluated by everybody at the shelter, all the community and things like that. And it was okay because I still am gonna try to do the best I can with the job that I'm given. And I don't have fear about that. And I don't now, but when you say you want to develop goals, I think this should be to evaluate on whatever metrics everybody decides on, evaluate that, and then say, based on what you're seeing, determine what the goals are for the organization and how I can achieve those goals, or what you want me to achieve in relation to those goals, and set those goals based on that. Because if you do performance and then goals, it's two different things. Performance could be in general, because there were no goals set, but what was my performance based on the metrics or the categories you set? That's great. And then I can take any feedback from whatever everybody sees, and I will definitely try to meet those goals.
And
or
then
meet that
next year we'll
feedback.
have
Right,
goals.
right.
And so we're trying to set up a level of like just accountability so that we can kind of list out what the expectation and be clear.
And I definitely want you, lady, you did great. This is, a great start, right? I mean, the framework, but there's just so much that with how this goes that we just need to look at before we can say, for me, before I feel comfortable, so I think, and revisiting this at the next meeting where we had a chance to look over it, give you feedback, maybe, write in the draft where we have the questions and you be able to answer it in the draft, or you know what I mean? And then we can come back with the more informed understanding for one, the board, and then for two, one, the executive director, two, the board, and kind of get this together.
I think I could add a little bit to that, and why, my lens is to incorporate feedback from not just internal, but external. And that's because the ecosystem by which this work it affects the community. Like, the community is really impacted by the unsheltered people that we have, the homeless population. And so you make an impact on the broader ecosystem by you being a leadership in this space. So I think incorporating that, and like that sets a big macro picture about the importance of your role and the importance of you, particularly you being in this role of leadership. So I think maybe Nisha Connor and I might be on the same page. Maybe I'm healing a thread, but like the broader picture about how your leadership performs and how that aligns with the community, and how the spirit of this wider ecosystem of not just the organization, but how our whole community appreciates your leadership is what I, wanted to encourage. So yeah, me going outside and saying, what are external partners experiencing as a part of you being a part of this leadership position, means that like, this is a reflection of like our community. Like, and I just want you to understand your representation that is impactful to the ecosystem. I want you to feel supported in that space. So I want to make sure that there's a lot of people, even not just internal people, but other people in our community who can be able to chime in on that. And I think that'd be a resonating note that with outside internal processes and people, the broader community really appreciates your position as leadership in the space. And I'm not saying nobody else does, I'm just saying the community really appreciates your position in the space. And I just want you to hear that. I want you to be able to examine that and be able to be complimented by that too. And maybe not compliment, right? Like, it might not be all positive, but I'm just gonna say, like, I think there's a broader community who would like to chime in on the work that you've done and you standing in it, in the space that you are.
And I agree with that.
Part of the evaluation, but a different.
I was just about to say, it has to be, that's separate than an evaluation. That is just overall feedback and recognition, and just feedback from community partners, anybody in the community, that what my impact to the shelter and what, like you said, the ecosystem was. But that's not an evaluation, that's maybe a critique, I guess.
I'm concerned about how we would protect you from the
You
people
can't.
who don't like the residency requirement, or who don't like that
I know.
everybody
Well,
has to
also-
leave after breakfast. I
I
mean,
get that, I get that.
the problem is that this is not a popularity contest. And I don't wanna make
No.
it, I don't wanna set us up for a thing where there's a really strong voice out there who might not agree. I mean, we've all seen it, who might not agree with how you run the pallet village or whatever. And all of a sudden, we have invited that chaos in trying to determine Are you the leader, are you
Mhm.
leading in the way we're asking you to, and that kind of thing. So I don't disagree that we wanna know from our community. And I keep using it, how we are doing as a shelter. But I don't think we wanna invite a popularity vote on James.
You know, I think it'd probably be strategic in where that output or where that
Yes.
feedback would go, it wouldn't be like general population.
Karen,
May I add something? Several months ago, maybe even last year, I don't remember because a lot has happened, but we were talking about how the board would receive comments from the public, and I don't know if there was anything further that gone on that, that kind of seems relevant to the discussion right now in terms of getting feedback from external parties and not related to the evaluation. That's something that I don't know if that was something that the board is continuing to work on.
no, we set a policy.
Yeah.
If someone wants public comment, they need to submit it in writing.
Okay.
They can also submit it through a
Is it-
recording.
Do we know that, I've not checked our website recently, I've looked at it, but is that posted on our website somewhere?
Pretty sure it was.
Yeah, I saw that. I was
Okay,
looking around, yeah,
Pictures, make sure it's somewhere. But
yeah, I could go back.
the idea is that public comment would be,
Yeah. Learn here to slow down a little, that we need to, you know, I'm clipping along, cause I have this idea in my head that I want James to be fulfilled with this by the end of January. That may not be possible, and we can slow down. So first and foremost, let's establish that. I also wanna note that you can see on what Charlie's showing is that I did a lot of this, and Shannon too, when we talked about this, based on board source best practice. And if you're not familiar with board source, there's a lot free on the internet. I have a series of books, but which I.
Attention library patrons, the
But
time is 7:30 and the library is closing at 8 p.m. We ask any patron needing a library card to come to the accounts desk immediately, since we will stop issuing new cards in 15 minutes. Any children or teens needing help calling for a ride home should go to the children's desk now. Thank you.
I think boards reinvent wheels all the time. And we like to sort of, as not just us, all boards everywhere, tend to kind of go, what do we want? And I feel this, and we have experienced this, and there's all this, and that's fine and good, and it's all important. I also think it's important to go to sort of research and data and a deep well, and which is why I kept referring back to board sources recommendations, because again, I don't wanna throw spaghetti at the wall. So I'm hoping that we're going something that's best practice, that's an established sort of process. We tweak to our own needs of our own organization, our own community, our own ED, our own board. You know, all the stakeholders, but ultimately that is based in more than just our own sort of individual anecdotal ideas. So if you want board source stuff, I'm happy to provide it.
So I just want to be mindful of the time. Usually we try to get out of here about right now. We have a few more important items to get to tonight. For the sake of moving on to the next item, are we comfortable with just revisiting this next month?
2 months from now, just to.
And
We'll send more detail and take more feedback in that time.
Connie, does that sit well with you?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, and I appreciate, right, all of us. Thank you, ladies.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item. It's the budget. I don't know if we're gonna have a lot of time tonight to talk about this, so maybe you could
I'm not,
give
we're
us.
just gonna talk about the whole thing, cause there's only just a couple things that I wanted to point out. Okay, so, we talked about accent, us moving from accent to the paychecks. So if you wanna scroll down to line 145. The row 145.
Were we under expenses?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right there, at the bottom, So there's that professional employer organization, for next year. I think in January 1, I'll abbreviate that, so it'll be PEO/HR consulting. That way I'll keep it on the same line, but you'll see, in pink is what I have as projected for, or budgeted for next year, based on the code that they provided us. The other thing that I wanted to point out was, we want to scroll down to the payroll section. I'm still trying to get this one buttoned up. But we did get our workers' compensation insurance back, our quote back from Paychecks. And they anticipate it to be about $85,000 for next year. It's about $10,000 savings from what we are paying with Accent. And that is on a per payroll basis. So, however many employees based on their workers' compensation code. We have 3 or 4 employees that are office clerical and everybody else is shelter based. So those are the only 2 things that had significantly changed on this budget. I think we've also tweaked it elsewhere, but those are the 2 highlights that I wanted to show on the budget. We're talking about.
And when you are figuring salary and the wages, is that a certain percent increase? What is that calculated on?
So salaries and wages are based on positions in the full-time equivalents that we are calculating that we need. And so that's gonna be based on the ratio that Misty's provided. So 43 PSAs between both the village, Palo 24 and the main shelter. And then I think case manager, she said 7. We're gonna be below that. But I have a chart, not a chart, but it's a matrix essentially that I'm saying that this is how many full-time equivalents we're gonna have. We fleshed it out in terms of, okay, we have this many people full-time, so we already know that's at 2080. And then if we have everybody else part-time, then we have, just as we're budgeting dollars, next year we can budget hours based on that too. And then the salaries, not salaries, the payroll taxes are gonna be pretty straightforward.
Does it have a percentage increase?
No,
Okay,
no, James has already talked with the union about that.
okay, great. And I mean,
Well, we do have in the contract adjustment for their pay.
Based on,
if we get the money.
yeah, we get money, and we're not getting money. And we already let them know that we weren't getting, based on our contract, being less, we're not considering raises.
But I'm seeing a deficit of $300,000, I mean approximately
Yeah.
$300,000.
What I,
You're trying to account for why it's a deficit.
Well, I'm just saying,
well, we still have some more.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
This is still
I
a draft.
won't vote for a
This is
budget.
still a
that
draft.
shows
Well,
that, is basically what I'm saying.
we're not gonna vote on this until next month, so. I feel like we don't have a lot of time to talk about this tonight. We have been, under budget on personnel all year. I think we can reasonably assert that the FTEs are not gonna be fully, to budget every month. So it's one area that seems obvious to make a cut in the budget would be the personnel line. Because our history tells us that we don't actually have 100% staffing any particular month. So I would say one way to get that budget to look like it balances 0 is to fix it by cutting the personnel budget by 289,000. And that would sort of resolve it, at least on paper.
I do also want to point out that we have focused primarily on the expense cutting. And not the revenue generating.
Well, we know that our revenue is gonna fall by at least $350,000.
We know that for certain, and there's certain lines that we always observe, but, we've not talked about how we're going to diversify our revenues. I think that's important.
I mean, evidence right now is that our revenues are declining. And fundraising has clearly shown uptick because of the event we just did, but donations are down. It seems unreasonable to think we can, like, that the tide has changed. I would rather stick with what we can control is how much we're spending. So, I mean, that's where my comfort is.
Well, and there's nothing that keeps us if we can figure out other revenue sources
Right.
from in March or whenever. Make changes, but
I will say. I'm very passionate that we did take what Misty recommended and we did not include all the positions that she recommended. We didn't include as many FTEs, we did not include 2 additional security guards. We cut down on 3 case managers. I know that's an area that we talked about cutting, but with pallet 24 now, it's confusing to me how we're gonna continue to do that. So we have made, I guess what I'm saying is we've made stab at cutting staff.
right.
Yeah, I think at some point, there probably needs to be discussion about cutting service people. You can't cut staff without having that ultimately be the situation.
I mean, we just can't adopt a budget, that's.
Oh, I totally.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
This is-
I totally agree.
And you're.
We're not planning
So
on it.
I rely on you guys to figure out.
We're not planning on it, and we still have some things we're gonna wanna work out in this, and I think what Charlie was saying is because we are under budget, we ran under budget, and most nonprofits come in under budget when it comes to staff, because especially we have the turnover we have, we're not ever at 100% and we're under budget. He's not saying cut staff, he's saying budget. Make the budget representative of not ever being fully
Oh,
staffed.
good turnover.
So, yeah, but not,
Unfortunately, yes.
but that's something that we can do on a budget sheet. And so we do plan to adopt a 0 budget.
Great.
We're going
I love
forward.
it.
So, yeah, we're working on that. I think we're all saying the same thing. We're just saying that we get to the same place different ways. So, but this is a draft. And like I tell my fellow all the time, we're working on a draft. This is not the way it's gonna be when we permit it. It is freezing.
All right,
You sing, right?
we're gonna,
That's our
we're gonna be kicked out of here. in 20
Yeah.
minutes, So
What we absolutely have to.
I'd like to get into the next item, under new business. We don't have this contract. We've talked about this at the last board meeting. The city has selected the contractor to do the internal remodeling. And the bid was given to ATEC, which was no surprise. The bid amount. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but
Yeah. They've identified a low bidder,
identified a low bidder.
and the next step is for me to enter into a contract with that bidder. And what we know is the amount of money that we have to spend, and since we don't have the contract, we're gonna Charlie's gonna ask the board to approve a contract up to the amount of money that we know we have to spend. And when we started this, there was 346,184 in CDBG funds for this project, with 61,000 of that going towards PEC, which is not to the contractor. And so the balance of that would be 285,184 is all the money we have for this contract. The bid was under that, but Charlie wants to say, for me to be approved to enter into a contract with the contractor that's selected with the low bid up to that amount, 285,184.
Okay.
That's all we have.
I make that motion.
So the 296 was not the right number.
No, it's not. It's 285,184, and Karen and I verified that, and I have this, so that's
285,
184.
184. So I entertain a motion to authorize James to enter into a contract not to exceed 285,000. 184.
So moved.
Thank you, Shannon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Megan. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Sorry about my voice.
Are you still coming down with something?
So what?
I believe
Do
so.
I need to move?
I believe so.
It's too late now.
I'm just.
Been there for 2 hours.
We need to stop talking. All right, next on the list is the consider appointing Kevin Kressig to the board of directors. I mentioned earlier that John and I had met with Kevin is the CPA. He's actually a director at Kindred CPA. And I've known Kevin for many years through my church, and so I can absolutely vouch for Kevin. He's on the finance council as well at our church. John actually knows him from his work at Jubilee Cafe. He described this CPA that he knows. This is before I realized it was you, Kevin.
Okay.
He described this person who he knows through Jubilee Cafe, who has a great heart, and just like he raved about you. And then I at some point he connected and said your name, and I'm like, oh, that's Kevin. I know Kevin. Yeah, he'd be great. So initially that discussion was Kevin was very, I guess, maybe reluctant, and I guess John found a way to get you to actually sit and talk to us, and you didn't run away. Anyway, we met, John and I, Kevin met and had a great conversation, tried to answer any questions Kevin might have, tried to give him a real clear picture of what he might be getting into, and he didn't say no. So he's here tonight, and if you want to say anything, Kevin, I'd welcome that, but otherwise.
I'm just done accounting here for a long time, and we've worked at Jubilee with homeless, and unhoused, and you really can't tell them that, we don't ask, but I do have a heart for that, and so.
Attention library patrons,
Ended up saying.
the time is 7:45 and the library will be closing in 15 minutes.
Anyone have any questions?
No new library cards will be issued tonight. Any children or teens needing help calling for a ride home should go to the children's desk now. Public computer sessions will end in 5 minutes. Please bring anything you plan to borrow to the nearest checkout station at this time. Thank you.
Okay. The motion to appoint Kevin to the board.
I'll move.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Megan. Seconded by Christina. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of appointing Kevin Kressig to the board, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thanks, Kevin.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Can I make it like
Welcome.
maybe
Yeah.
talk about something? I mean, with your expertise being in accounting, would that be an opportunity for expansion of the executive board as we look at budgets and monies and things? And in there might.
Actually,
I don't know, is it, if we can, I don't know if the.
I know you're serving two roles, secretary and treasurer, so maybe getting to that. The next item on our agenda, maybe we don't need to decide this tonight, but I want to introduce it. Megan had suggested the idea that if we were to form a finance committee, that finance committee could help us with kind of the process around how we do our monthly financial review, and essentially they would do a deeper dive before it comes to the board, so that it would relieve Karen and me really from some of the just scrolling through all these things endlessly. And so there would be kind of an internal vetting of all that, and some greater confidence by the board that what's being presented every month has already been reviewed more thoroughly. So, Megan, do you want to say anything about the idea?
Yeah, I just think, there's kind of a process, and Karen's gonna be mad at me because this is kind of hard, but ultimately it will serve both staff and the board's understanding to, when a month ends, Karen has to be month end. She has to make sure everything's right and done. And she produces financials. If those financials go from Karen to James, and then from James, if he has questions, back to Karen, and then to the finance committee in a pretty rapid succession, then the finance committee, including finance experts, which most of us are not, can do a deeper dive and find, Kevin may have questions, people, to say, here's a tweak that I don't know, Jim, I would never find it. You can send me financials every month, I'm pretty good at looking at them from experience, but I'm not an accountant, so we could easily miss something.
I don't dislike that at all.
And not because you're not doing your job,
No.
but just because
Being on my,
controls are good, right?
yeah, on being on my side, I have too much control over this and I would really like to have less control over it.
Controls are
And then-
good, eyes are good,
Another piece of work.
GCFOA would agree. So if it can kind of go through the internal staff review, then to the finance committee. And then what we would get would be kind of a dashboard, a consistency every month of here's the things the board needs to know. We look for them, we know what we're looking for, and we get this kind of high level view because there's been someone else already doing a deeper dive. It will speed up the board meeting. It would also speed up accuracy, I think, in our accounting and potential misses that we.
The other piece of work that would be helpful is to review our financial policies. We've made a lot of changes since those were adopted, and so having a committee that could spend more time on updating those policies would be useful.
Gap and all that stuff, so.
One of the things that since I've come on, I've really wanted to do for us is to have as much confidence in our financials as possible. And I feel like I would love to have somebody be like, yeah, I'm looking at what you're doing and it's legit. And again, because I am the accounting, I don't like that. I'm doing too much. So.
Um,
Very good.
So
Yeah, that's usually where I end up.
He's like, I knew it, they were gonna do it.
The decorating committee.
Yes.
are we ready for this kind of decision tonight, or do you wanna,
I think we need to ask Kevin if he's willing.
well, I think one of the obvious questions would be, Kevin, would you wanna be on finance committee? And-
Yeah, I can do that. It's gonna be a little busy during tax season, but, February, March.
Is there anyone else that's interested in being on the finance committee?
Would love to, but I'm already on too many.
Yeah.
No.
Chakani, were you throwing in some?
Oh, no, yeah.
Well.
I mean, hey, if we need help there, I mean, I don't know what kind of help I can be, but yeah, I will consider to be put anywhere where I can help us, right? So I think I just hit unmute. I surely didn't mean to do that.
Okay. I would
You can have some soup.
I'm
John is.
I'm
Down
happy,
here,
I'm
yeah.
I'm happy to also be on the finance committee, so I think if we wanted tonight, we'll create the committee and put the two of us on there.
Okay.
Would there
Okay.
Staff,
be a motion to
perfect.
get a motion to create the committee and
I know.
put the two of us on it? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion was made by Megan, seconded by Shannon to create a finance committee and appoint
Thank you.
Kevin and Charlie. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Great,
Thanks, Kevin.
love that.
Are there any other board member updates or comments? All right, and the last thing tonight, if we need to move into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Can I get someone to make a motion to do so?
Let's see, I move the board recesses into executive session to discuss a matter involving non-elected personnel. This executive session is necessary to protect the privacy interests of the individual involved. The board will return to open session in meeting room C at
7:59.
7:59. No binding action will be taken during the executive session.
Participants will be.
Read it all.
Participants in the executive session will be the board members both in person and remote.
Is there second? All right. Thank you. And if there's no other discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We're going to executive session. We'll return to open session at 7:59. Can I get a
That in the library.
To adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
I made a motion. Oh.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you.